House Republicans are considering launching an impeachment inquiry against President Biden. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy told reporters earlier this week that lawmakers need answers to questions that they have about the Biden family finances and that those questions merit an investigation. But not everybody in the party agrees. The Hill reports that Senate Republicans are concerned that launching an impeachment so close to the 2024 election could turn off moderate voters. Let's dig in deeper into this with NewsNation political contributor Sean Spicer, who served as White House press secretary during the Trump administration, and also NewsNation political contributor Johanna Maska, who served in the Obama White House. Good morning to both of you. Sean, let's start here. What's with you? What's the case for moving forward with an impeachment inquiry? I mean, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy even acknowledged earlier this week that House probes haven't proven any wrongdoing. So if there's no evidence yet, what am I missing here?
I think that's the million-dollar question. I think the problem that exists right now is Democrats started this. They've started to weaponize the impeachment process, and now Republicans want revenge. I don't think that that's right. But the reality is, and this goes true when Harry Reid changed the rules, the filibuster rules in the Senate, is the Democrats tend to take a step and then get upset when Republicans use the same tool against them. So this is what's happening here. I mean, I get what's going on. They want to weaponize this, but House Republicans will have to make the case that what President Biden did is more than wrong. It meets the threshold of high crime and misdemeanor. Remember, there's two issues here. One is the House can impeach you. The Senate then has to remove you. We know, as in the case with President Trump, the Senate wasn't going to remove him. The question was whether or not the House would impeach him. I think that is very possible in this House that he could be impeached. And because of the politicalization of it, that's the path that we're down now.
Yeah. Joanna, I see you nodding here. How do you respond to what Sean just said? I mean, is there something worth taking a closer look at?
Well, look, it is a fabulous Friday morning to be with you all, and it feels like this is just over and over. I mean, Sean, you've seen from the early days of the White House, there was what we called Trump derangement symptom, or what you all called Trump derangement syndrome. Trump derangement syndrome. And so what we're seeing is now it's like a resistance derangement syndrome over and over and over. And what the problem is, right, is we've got the House Republicans charging forward. McCarthy is really in a position where he's damned if he does and he's damned if he doesn't. If he says, no, we're not even going to consider it, he's got people on one side of his far right who are going to say, absolutely, we're going to get rid of you. He's got people on, the more moderate side who are actually pretty vulnerable, and they, are going to be in a position where they don't want to be part of this resistance derangement syndrome that keeps happening. And so what we're seeing is this continuing cycle is going to end up polarizing people, really ticking off the moderate Americans that just want government to work. And this particular allegation, although those of us who were part of the Biden White House or the Obama Biden White House and see these pictures of Hunter Biden and think, my God, this is disgusting, and he clearly wasn't part of any of our ethics briefings, the problem is they can't seem to connect it to Vice President Biden at the time, now President Biden, and make that high crimes and misdemeanors allegation actually stick.
Sean, I see you want to jump in here.
I think so look, President Biden, the problem that he has right now is that over and over again, he said that my son did nothing wrong, and that he used the word, I knew nothing of his business dealings. You've seen the sleight of hand from Karine Jean-Pierre, where they weren't in business together. Well, that wasn't the line for the last 4 years. It was, I knew nothing of it. I never discussed his business. We've now seen evidence through emails that have come from Hunter Biden's laptop that nobody has denied. And this is the other issue. The White House has refused to comment on it. The White House was very, very adamant that the president had nothing to do, quote, and never spoke to his son about his business dealings. We know that that's not true. We know that that was a lie. And the question is, they've now changed the narrative to he wasn't in business. I mean, this is the Bill Clinton dictionary at work here. What's the definition of is anymore? And so the problem is that the White House has created the situation. But there's a difference between bad behavior, inappropriate behavior, unethical behavior, and high crimes and misdemeanors. And where the House needs to go is to figure out how to connect those dots. The White House is not doing themselves any favor. And my guess is the reason is that because they know that there are receipts now. There are emails, there are texts, there are videos of President Biden and pictures of him meeting with Hunter's business associates. And so he did lie.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.